And that is our big story tonight at 5. Investigators finally know who killed 18-year-old Tracy Hammerberg in Ozaukee County back in 1984.
And it's all thanks to an emerging area of forensic science that finally linked DNA from the crime scene to DNA from the killer just a few weeks ago.
After almost 35 years, we had found the person that had brutally raped, strangled, and bludgeoned Tracy Hammerberg to death.
Just today, Ozaukee County Sheriff Jim Johnson announced that 21-year-old Philip J. Cross raped and murdered Hammerberg in 1984. He called Cross a loner with a violent temper who escaped detection for decades and died of a drug overdose back in 2012. Last week, that same sheriff sat down for an exclusive one-on-one interview with our Brian Polson about how they finally solved this 35-year-old cold case.
Why would the partially clothed body of a young woman be dumped off here?
When 18-year-old Tracy Hammerberg was found, raped and beaten to death in a snow-covered driveway south of Saukville, Ronald Reagan was president. Lynn Dickey was the Packers quarterback, and Jim Johnson was serving his second tour in the Marines, 7 years before he would become a deputy at the Ozaukee County Sheriffs Office.
When I started here in 1991, it's a case that was haunting us.
Now, Sheriff Johnson can finally say,
we know who killed Tracy.
This is for sure where we last know she was at.
The murder stumped investigators for decades, despite a litany of promising suspects.
Nice and rigorously.
Who were ultimately cleared through DNA.
They were just swabbing everybody that they were talking to.
Over the years, the Wisconsin State Crime Lab tested more than 400 samples without a match.
This is the largest amount of DNA tests of any case in the state of Wisconsin.
The breakthrough finally came thanks to an emerging science known as genetic genealogy, the same technique used last year to catch the Golden State Killer.
It's not as easy as some people may think.
Combining evidence left on Tracy's body with public DNA databases like MyHeritage and GED Match, investigators identified the killer's second cousin. From there, they worked through a family tree until they landed on this man, Philip J. Cross.
I don't remember seeing Philip Cross's name in that file.
Philip Cross's name was not in that file.
In 1978, Cross was a freshman at Port Washington High School, the same school Hammerberg would attend 3 years later.
It's like, how do we miss him? Going through the files, looking, how do we miss this guy?
While Cross and Hammerberg may have known each other, he was not among her long list of friends and associates.
He wasn't there. He was a loner, outside of the circles.
The night Tracy was killed, she'd been partying at a house in Port Washington, and around midnight, friends say, she left to walk home to Saukville.
Yeah, I got no doubt in my mind she was in somebody's car.
That same night, Cross left work at a factory in Grafton, perhaps headed home to the town of Port. Somewhere along the way, their paths crossed.
Maybe she asked for a ride, and then they decided to go party some more.
Or does he see her and say, hey, you need a lift?
Yep. We don't know.
And they will likely never know because Philip J. Cross is dead.
I wanted to face Tracy's murderer. We didn't have that opportunity.
In 2012, at age 48, Cross was found unresponsive in a seedy Milwaukee hotel with a crack pipe nearby and a needle on his lap.
It sounds like you have mixed emotions.
I do. I'm very mixed because I really want this person to pay for their crime.
After Tracy's death, Cross went on to live a life of heavy drinking and drugs that landed him in jail time and time again, and no one ever knew they had Tracy's killer in custody.
He was able to live his life afterwards. He had children. Tracy didn't have that opportunity. He stole that from her.
In Ozaukee County, Tracy Hammerberg will forever be 18, but at least her case is no longer cold.
We didn't give up on Tracy.
Tracy's sister, Lori Sells, now lives in Nebraska with her husband, Kelly, and I spoke to them on the phone. They said they are extremely grateful that Ozaukee County detectives never gave up on this case, and they are thankful that this gives them at least some measure of closure. You can hear a complete phone interview I did with them on our website, fox6now.com. As for the killer, Philip Cross, his daughter also
spoke to me and says she and her family are having a difficult time accepting all of this. They don't understand how this could have come up now, especially 7 years after their father passed away. But she did tell me if the science is right, then her father got away with murder. In Port Washington, Brian Polson, Fox 6 Investigators.